move, kill them.
And so we begin Sam Peckinpah's classic ballet of violence with one of the great lines in all of Western films. But before we get into it and talk about it this morning on Saturday Morning Western Roundup, I want to wish everybody a good morning. I'm glad that you're here. Let's get us rolling with the trailer so we put us in the proper mood.
The Wild West was pretty well tamed by 1930.
I saw one just like it in Waco. Hey, Pike, you know what I hear? I hear they take out one of those things up north that can fly.
That was a balloon, you damned old fool.
No, the old man's right. They got motors, wings, go 60 miles in less than an hour.
Driven to the border by the irresistible thrust of civilization were the remnants of the breed that had made the West wild.
If they move, kill them.
The payrolls are harder to get at. The Army rode the railroad now. But there were still a few trails for the kind who'd be cold before they were tamed. They called them the Wild Bunch. Pike had been a gentleman of principle. He still had a principle or two.
We're not getting rid of anybody. We're going to stick together just like it used to be. When you side with a man, you stay with him. And if you can't do that, you're like some animal. You're finished.
Dutch had dug for gold. He gave up diggings.
How many cases did you take from the train? 16 cases of rifles. We lost one on the trail. He stole it. So get him.
Thornton should have been a lawyer. He always argued.
Oh, relax. It's just some champagne we ordered.
Sykes had been a gunman in his day. He still had the gun.
We gotta get him back. How?
Gorch had been trying for years. Sometimes he almost worked up to normal.
I want you to meet my fiancée.
Okay, that gets us in the proper mood for this wonderfully amazing film. I have to be honest, this is a movie that it took me a while to like, because I always have to have somebody to root for. And these are bad people. These are really, really bad people. But as I watched the film over and over again, I don't know why I kept doing it. Usually if there's a movie I don't like, I'm not going to keep rewatching. But there was something about this. And it finally clicked with me. And it was that one line where Pike says, when you side with a man, you stick with him. And that's when it clicked for me. You know, I do have somebody to root for. I have to root for these men of loyalty. They're horrible people and they do horrible things. That opening sequence, they use hostages as shields, and their time on this planet is coming to an end. You know, their way of life is coming to an end. The movie takes place in 1913. Civilization, they talk about cars and airplanes and stuff like that, and the train robbing is all but over. But loyalty is still there, and that's the part that grabbed me about this movie that I really, really like. Up until 1969, up until this movie, I should say, Westerns had violence, but it was more action-based and implied violence. Sam Peckinpah, just took the wheels off that wagon with this movie, with the use of squibs. And evidently, when he was filming Ride the High Country, he was out on a hunting expedition, and he shot a buck. And he had mentioned to the guy he was with that it goes in like a dime, but it comes out like a plate. And it was that type of violence in real life that he wanted to show in this movie. George Stevens had a similar thought about violence after he came back from World War II, and he did Shane, but obviously he couldn't show the blood and the gore the way that Sam Peckinpah could in 1969. It's got a hell of a cast too, this movie. William Holden, Ernest Borgnine, Robert Ryan, Edmund O'Brien, Warren Oates. A lot of these guys you'll see in other Peckinpah films. Jaime Sanchez, Ben Johnson, Emilio Fernandez, Strother Martin, love Strother Martin, L.Q. Jones, Albert Decker in his last film appearance before he died, Bo Hopkins, and good old Dub Taylor. It's got a wonderful cast. Back to the violence of this thing. Originally had an X rating. They didn't know how to deal with this, and they cut it to hell. So much so it drove Peckinpah crazy, and formed a rift between him and the producer that never repaired. But the version that you watch now is the restored version. It has all the stuff added back in. So you're seeing Peckinpah's movie. I love the opening sequence, as I should say the title sequence, when they all ride in. Evidently, Robert Ryan he kept pestering Peckinpah about his credit in this film. He wanted to have top billing, and he just wouldn't let go. So when it came to the credit sequence, as they're riding into the town to rob the bank, there'd be like this freeze frame that would go to black and white, and it would say, William Holden as Pike Bishop. And then it would do the same for Ernest Borgnine. It would freeze frame on him. And then when it got to Robert Ryan, he freeze framed it on a bunch of horses' asses. As a little, to you. So next time you watch that opening credits, check that out, because that's pretty funny. If you haven't seen it, you really should watch this film. It's one of the game changers in Western films. The shootout at the end, and the sequence leading up to it, where they have this epiphany, this moment where they realize, you know what, this life is over. Let's go out with a bang. Let's avenge or free Angel, and let the chips land as they may. But they pretty much know that they're going on a suicide mission at the very end. And there's the big walk, and they go up to Mapache's porch, and that's when the rubber hits the road, if you will. I won't spoil the ending for anybody, because it's so great. This film just builds and builds and builds and builds to this ending. And like I said, I won't spoil it for you. So, The Wild Bunch, Sam Peckinpah in 1969, a seminal film. It's one of those ones you gotta watch. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. So let's say good morning to everybody. George Travalos is here. Good morning, chat. Happy to see he loves The Wild Bunch. Fearless Freep is here. Good morning. Johnny Rando, The Wild Bunch is a perfect movie. It's also the last movie that I saw in the theater, December of 2019, sipping whiskey in the balcony of a revival house. Oh, man. Now that's the way to watch this movie. Well done, sir. Good morning, Graham. Morning, chat. Yeah, George is in agreement. Good morning, Rob. If they move, kill them. Yeah. Great line. Sam Peckinpah, as a director, I like some of his movies. I love Ride the High Country. I love The Wild Bunch. And then I'm sort of indifferent on a bunch of his other films. But one of my favorite movies of his, which is rarely ever shown, is Bring Me the Head of Garcia, Alfredo Garcia, with Warren Oates. That is a crazy 70s movie that you have to check out if you can find it. Dr. Mask, good morning, sir. It's always great to have a morning stream on getting some page work done. Well, I'm glad somebody's working hard. Stat, good for you. Remember as a kid, Ernest Borgnine seemed to be on everything. Yeah, he was a busy actor. And Borgnine's one of those guys who can, who to me is very versatile. He could play, McHale, like in McHale's Navy, kind of a happy guy. But he could also play a really mean son of a bitch. And he had just this infectious smile. He's just, he could go from really, really badass to really, really nice guy. And I think that was really great, that versatility he had. There we go. Yeah. Borgnine was in a lot of great movies. Oh, Warren Oates is his spirit animal. Check out the Avatar. Yeah. What movie is that from? It's not Alfredo Garcia, because he's too nicely dressed, I think. Oh, Victor Thomas got his copy of the Chinook yesterday. Excellent. Yeah, they're arriving in droves now. The mail has been slow. I had people in my own hometown here that only got it this past week. So if you haven't gotten yours, just hang in there. It's on its way. Everything has shipped. Nihilistic cowboys. Yeah, that pretty much says it. Mike Barron's tuning in. Hi, Mike. One of the greatest Westerns ever made. It is good. How do you like to kiss my sister's black cat's ass? The Bo Hopkins line. Mapache, a fantastic villain. I guess Mapache means raccoon in Spanish. Let's see. Good morning, all. Good morning, Wesley. I'll catch up on the rest of the video later. The Chinook was awesome. Can't wait for Alien Alamo. Oh, thank you, sir. Excellent. Warren Oates was my drunk uncle. Ben Schaefer also loves this film. Jeremiah Johnson loves it. Hillary is in the room. Peckinpah packs a punch. Oh, nice alliteration there. I agree with you on this movie. When I first saw it, I was just okay. Now I love it. I think you appreciate it the older you get and realize the days you remember are over. That could be. It's certainly a complex film. The opening sequence that where they keep going back and forth to the kids and the scorpion on the anthill. I didn't get that. I didn't understand why they kept going back to that, and it wasn't until later on I figured out it was a metaphor. And the metaphor could go two ways, really. The ants are time, civilization, if you will, catching up with our the Wild Bunch, which would be represented by the Scorpion, and just overwhelms them, and it's the end of him. Or it could also reflect the ending of the film, in which Mapache is the big dog, if you will, and the Wild Bunch overcomes him. Yeah, that was one of those things that I didn't quite get for many, many years. Dan Michaelis is a fan of Straw Dogs and the Cross of Iron. Jeremiah likes Alfredo Garcia too. That's cool. Oh, there we go. Billy Dunleavy. I'll have to give this a watch. I wasn't big on Western or war films when I was younger, so I've got some catching up to do in those genres. Thanks. Oh, you're welcome. Love me Westerns. Oh, back on the mail system. Dr. Mask had comics shipped from California in December, and it took 45 days to get them. Yeah, and he's in New York. Hillary watched Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid again the other day. Here's another Peckinpah film. I love Borgnine in Emperor of the North with Lee Marvin, sadistic railroad guard versus hobos. Yeah, that's a great example of just how sadistic and mean Borgnine can play. You could see Lee Marvin in that role. After watching his Liberty Valance, he could definitely pull that role off. But Borgnine, like I said, very, very versatile. He's so good. Okay, I think I got everybody in here on today's show. So we're gonna just take a minute here and do a little plugging, because if you haven't heard, and still has a Western theme, I will be launching my next project on Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Alien Alamo is my next project that I'm publishing through Compass Comics. It takes place in 1957. It's the story and relationship of a father and son that are distanced because of he's scarred by what he had seen in the Pacific in World War II, and it is only the advent of this alien invasion that brings the father and son together again on their ranch called the Alamo in West Texas. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I think you guys will really enjoy it. I'll be launching it live on my stream at 12 noon. I'm hoping that I can press the button right here on live and it'll go up. But we shall see. What happens with me and technology sometimes. So it should be interesting, and I hope you'll tune in for that Tuesday at 12 noon. Until then, I want to thank you guys for tuning in for Saturday Morning Western Roundup, and please come by on Tuesday, and don't forget, back Alien Alamo. Thanks again. Have a great day and a great weekend. Bye-bye.